It's looking more and more likely as this offseason goes on that Sam Darnold is not going to be returning to the Vikings. And I think it's the right decision. Of course, when you're in these situations, it's always a little difficult because we can't predict the future. All we can do is react to the evidence in front of us. And a lot of the evidence around Sam Darnold was a great season last year. And that he's a guy who can win a lot of football games in the NFL with the right system around him and the right coaches around him. And that's what he has in Minnesota. It's similar to the Kirk Cousins situation. It's very different in many ways, but there's similarities to the Kirk Cousins situation last year, where Kirk at 6-4 was playing some of the best football in his career before he tore his Achilles. So there's always risk in moving on from a quarterback that you believe puts you in a great position to win most weeks of the season. It's hard to win in the NFL. And I feel like I've been a little spoiled as a Vikings fan, amazingly spoiled as a Vikings fan, because we have been winning a lot. Over the past 3 years, the Vikings had a 13-4 season, a 14-3 season, and then Kirk was playing again some of the best football of his career when we were 6-4 before he tore his Achilles. So we've been doing a lot of winning. The Vikings have lost 10 games in the regular season the past 3 years. That's unbelievable. Or 11 games, maybe. Before Kirk got hurt, I'm sorry, because then it fell apart. So they've been winning a lot, and you want to keep that going. And bringing back Sam Darnold would probably keep that floor pretty high for this team. I know Sam imploded against the Lions and the Rams. I believe against most teams, because those are two, the Lions are playing with their hair on fire, and the Rams have one of the best young defensive lines in football. Most situations, I would expect Sam Darnold to play a lot better than that if he were to come back next year. At the same time, you look at the situation, you go, the Vikings believe in JJ McCarthy. Every single report that you see is that JJ McCarthy has convinced them he's their guy. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not in Minneapolis. I've only seen the preseason games as well for JJ playing. But every report coming out and every comment from that coaching staff is that they believe JJ's the guy. He was intended to be the guy, and they want to make him the guy. That makes me think that Sam Darnold coming back on a multi-year deal is off the table. I know that the stories are continuing that the Vikings are interested. How much of that is the Vikings trying to drive his price up for a potential tag and trade, which also seems to be off the table, but every now and then you see reports that the Raiders are interested in it or someone else is, and Minnesota, of course, would want to try to get something back for a quarterback, right? You want to try and replenish that completely depleted drafts capital this year. So I understand why the Vikings are talking that up. But to me, it seems like JJ McCarthy's the guy. Now, if JJ's the guy, but he's not ready to go at the start of the season, which it also seems is on the table, this is such a weird situation because there's so many different avenues the Vikings can go down. I'm not even going to get into Aaron Rodgers today. That seems like it's not going to happen, but it's one of them. There's so many hypotheticals the Vikings could go down. The one that's seeming to gain more steam is Daniel Jones. And if you're a Vikings fan and you hear me say Daniel Jones is going to be our starting quarterback next season, you're probably sitting back in your car, sitting back at home and going, oh my God, do I really want to go through with this? Do I really want Daniel Jones? We saw that disaster in New York. I mean, guys, who does that sound like? A little bit like Sam Darnold, right? Last year, sitting back in your chair going, oh God, are we really going with Sam Darnold here? That was a disaster in New York. And look what happened. Kevin O'Connell has shown that he can take a lot of these journeyman quarterbacks, these guys who have struggled in bad situations, and really bring out the best in them. Some of the best seasons of their career. You saw it for a little bit with Josh Dobbs, and who's a fine quarterback. Josh Dobbs is a backup, but he had some moments with the Vikings there. You saw it for sure with Sam Darnold last year. I think you saw it with Kirk Cousins. I think you saw some of the best football of Kirk's career with KOC, and Kirk's not in that same conversation of these guys, but Daniel Jones is another one of these dudes who's in a terrible spot in New York. The Giants and the Jets are two of the losingest teams in the league over the last 5-6 years. I mean, they've been horrible. So much dysfunction, so much chaos. And at least Daniel Jones had one good year, right? There's a reason he got paid $160 million. Now, that was way too much. I think we all agree on that. But he was good that year. He was fine. I think, 15 touchdowns and 9 interceptions? He was fine. Shouldn't have paid him that much. Bad move from the Giants. And the Viking games, again, are the reason he got paid because he threw for 650 yards and whatever many touchdowns. They're unbelievable against the horrible Vikings defense that year. So before you get too upset about Daniel Jones, you need to think about the big picture here. He's not going to be the guy. Like this is where it gets tiring, and I'm totally with you, Vikings fans, where we're looking at this situation, we're saying, oh my gosh, like, can we just go after our guy? Can we just get this process over with? Because if you go back to when Kirk got hurt, that was half a season of trying to find the right journeyman. Last year, we bring in Darnold, journeyman. This year, we're talking about Daniel Jones. You just had enough. We want our guy. So why are we continuing this process? Let's go with JJ right now. Let's get right into it. I'm totally with you guys, and I want to get there too. I think the whole coaching staff, that's why they're going to let Darnold go. Everyone wants to get there. The Daniel Jones piece of this is a little different than Sam last year, and I'd be really surprised. I guess it's kind of similar, because if Daniel comes out and has the year Sam had, then there are all these questions. But my guess is that they want JJ playing week 1 and that they're intending on him being able to go. But if you bring in Daniel Jones, you at least have a security blanket, and then you're going to let him battle it out with JJ over the course of the offseason. And if JJ's not in a spot where he's good with his knee, you at least can stay afloat. And then either A, Daniel Jones craps out and you put in JJ and give him reps, hopefully, or like even earlier in the season, possibly, whenever he's good to go. Or DJ comes out and plays well, and this is where you're kind of a little bit like Darnold last year. But I think that the plan will be, I would be really surprised if we had these similar conversations of, oh, let's sign Daniel Jones to a $50 million deal. I think they want JJ McCarthy. So you have some similarities in that. If DJ lights the world on fire, I guess you're forced into this situation of having to reevaluate whether or not he could be the guy. But my guess is this is more of a security blanket than the plan for Daniel Jones to be the guy the entire season. And look, there's nothing wrong with having a cheap contract for a veteran quarterback who's a better backup than most in the league, while you give your guy time to recover. Like, there's no bad case scenario with Daniel Jones. There just really isn't, given where the Vikings are. Like if they let Darnold go, they're going with McCarthy. It's fine to have Daniel Jones on the team and play for a bit if JJ can't go. And the only bad situation is if he's so bad, right? Like so horrendously bad, and JJ can't recover in time, which I don't think is going to happen. So it should be fine. So don't freak out about Daniel Jones. He's not the plan, but he's a fine backup. And there's only a higher ceiling in that if he plays well, you continue to give JJ time to recover. Like the Vikings are not let's get this one thing clear. The Sam Darnold situation was a huge win for Minnesota. I know it ended really poorly, but this was a great win for us as a fan base. Like this situation of, oh, should we sign the guy who took us 14-3 and had the best year of his career, or go with the first round rookie quarterback that we all believe in? This is a great option to have. It just depends on which side you believe in. And most people want to go with McCarthy because they think the upside is higher. This isn't a bad thing for the Vikings. There are quarterback rooms around the league. You're looking at the Steelers, you're looking at the Colts, you're looking at the Titans, you're looking at the Raiders, you're looking at the Browns, the Giants, the Jets, all these teams that are in quarterback hell. That's not the Vikings. Teams would die to be, I'll say that. Teams would kill. Yeah, right. Better word usage there. Teams would kill to be in the Vikings position. So I know it's a little frustrating not knowing what we're going to have next year at the moment, but we're going to know soon, and we're in a good situation with great players around whoever it's going to be. That's all I have to say about that. As far as, I saw that we talked to Cam Ward too. A lot of people were surprised that the Vikings sat down and interviewed Cam Ward. Like, oh, what could this mean? Are they going to try and trade JJ McCarthy to one of the teams picking at the top of the draft and get Cam Ward and another haul for someone who thinks JJ would be the number one quarterback in this class? Like, what's going on here? Why even interview him? It's just being good at your job. Like, you should be ready for any situation. If someone does come and offer the mother load for JJ McCarthy, like, the Vikings need to be ready for that situation. I don't think they want to move on from JJ. I'd be really surprised. But if it does happen, right, have your research. Know what you think of Cam Ward. Know what the package would have to be. I think it's just Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi doing the right thing here. Think about your fantasy football drafts, right? This is what I was thinking of. For anyone who's in a fairly competitive league, when you go into your draft, no matter how many times you sit down and do mock drafts, there's always the chance that someone does something unpredictable, and it usually happens where now you have to kind of scramble if you're not prepared. The way that you're ready for that is by doing a little, I'm not talking like sit down all offseason, study fantasy football, but have an idea of who you like so that when that unpredictable thing happens, you can react appropriately to it and you're not panicking. So if someone does wind up calling, if the Giants do come calling on draft night and say, hey, we'll give you the number 3 pick in the draft, plus some extra stuff, plus some more draft capital for a team that already has none, are you interested? The Vikings should have an answer. So I love that they interviewed Cam Ward. I think it's fun. I think it's the right decision for the team.